Hi there, I'm Judy Holland, and welcome to Happy Nest, the podcast where you can hear the latest research and best advice for living well when your kids leave home. Join me as I interview experts and explore how to reinvent yourself during this critical passage. I hope you'll head over to judyhollandauthor.com and check out my new book, Happy Nest, Finding Fulfillment When Your Kids Leave Home. I'm here today on the Happy Nest podcast with Rob Angel, the creator of the best-selling board game Pictionary, which has sold more than 38 million copies worldwide. Rob didn't just create a game. He created a worldwide phenomena. He took on the big toy companies, Milton Bradley and Mattel, and won. Rob is a philanthropist, investor, and speaker who encourages aspiring entrepreneurs to, quote, find their aardvark. You'll have to listen to the podcast to find out where that came from. Can you spell aardvark? He shows others how to be fun-loving, boundary-busting, and creative. He's a gifted marketer and has told his story in his new book, Game Changer, the story of Pictionary and how I turned a simple idea into the best-selling board game in the world. Rob is all about turning passion and persistence into innovation and success. I'm here today on the Happiness Podcast with Rob Angel, the creator of the best-selling board game Pictionary. Oh my gosh, I remember playing Pictionary when I was much younger, and I don't even like games, but I like that game. That is a good game, and I like the pictures. Rob, welcome to Happy Nest, and thank you for making time for us.
Well, thank you for having me.
Rob, you are, I guess you're now in LA. You were from Seattle originally, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm still in Seattle. I'm just down here for a little bit. I wasn't planning on staying around this long, but here I am for now.
Either way, both of those places have been hard hit, as much of the country has, by this latest crisis of uncertainty. I believe when we get through this, at the end of this temporary time, we're going to see an explosion in innovation, as we bounce back from this crisis. You, Rob, are an innovator. You're a creative one. What do you think is going to happen with regard to innovation?
Well, you already see it, that people are now staying home more, obviously. And I think it's been there all along, but it's now coming out. And you can see it on the post where people are posting funny things now. It's pretty good. It's pretty entertaining. And it's, and it's partly because of nervousness. But I think when that starts dying down and we get into a rhythm, I think a lot of creativity is coming out of this, and it's just going to accelerate. And when we're all released back into the wild, I think it's just going to explode.
Back into the wild. And I used to think the woods were the wild. Like, that's where I go now for fun. I walk a Great Dane in the woods. But the wild, everything's upside down and topsy-turvy, I guess now. You are a creative one. I read that you were 23 and a waiter, and you came up with Pictionary, and that you drew like 1,000 of these or created them by hand or something in your apartment. What prompted you to invent Pictionary? Where did that come from? Because again, we're going to need a dose of that, as many people are losing jobs, and they're going to have to reinvent in new ways.
It was, the idea for Pictionary had been floating around for a while. I'd been playing it with roommates, and so the idea was there, but I was open to the idea. And that's kind of one of the things that, it's always permeated my life and kind of ruled my life, is that when, opportunities come all the time, whether it was, playing Pictionary with my roommates or seeing something on television or whatever, just being open and having an open mind to these new things. And when they come in, I would start running with them. I'd start practicing. I'd start seeing with Pictionary, for example, how I could turn it into a board game. The idea was there. There's a lot of great ideas. It's just a matter of getting started.
I know, but how did you have the idea?
It was, I chuckle because I've been asked that question. It was one of my roommates at the time. They just started sketching words out of the dictionary. It was like charades on paper, we used to call it. And we just sat down one night and pulled out a dictionary and started sketching words. And it was really that simple. So it wasn't like this master plan. Okay, let's create a game. Let's, be creative. Let's do these cool things. It was, hey, so let's just start sketching words.
But were you like artist kinds of people? Were you like the kid that was drawing the art when you were in third grade?
How can I be nice to myself here? I'm terrible at my own game. No, no, I am not an artist in any way, shape, or form. I was a waiter. In fact, we were all waiters by trade, and that's how I put myself through college. And so I was just a simple activity. But I was always, I was always looking for something, right? In the back of my mind, I was always open to the idea of trying my own business, of starting my own business. And Pictionary happened to be it.
Yeah, but as a waiter, that's kind of a gift. I mean, if somebody had given you a trust fund, you might not have been scrappy enough, or you might not have had enough fire under you to come up and create something like this. I talked to you about the idea. Let's talk to me about the grit it took to get this launched. And is that right that you made 1,000 games by hand?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it was. My partners and I decided to do 1,000 games as a test, and there was no internet at the time, so we couldn't go and Google. Okay, so how do we produce 1,000 games? So it was necessity. We figured out how to get it done, so we went into the Yellow Pages back in the day. Those big books that used to come on your doorstep, and I knew I needed boxes, so I looked under the word boxes in the newspaper and the Yellow Pages, found a box maker, then a pencil maker, then a die maker, and just had 9 different companies supplying us with parts. And it wasn't grit. I never considered it grit. I just considered it something that needed to get done. Right? Right? It wasn't necessarily the most creative part of the process.
But why did it need to get done, Rob? Why did it need to get done? Didn't you work late on that? You put other things on hold. Why did you think it needed to get done?
I have not been asked that question before.
There's a pattern. There's a pattern with people that innovate like this, that they say similar things like this needed this. They just have got to do something.
Yeah, I had this vision of a board game, right? I didn't have this vision of creating something that the world would love. I didn't have this vision of taking on the big game companies and creating this masterpiece and selling games. It was just to create a game, right? That was my creative process. That was create something that other people would enjoy and other people would love playing as much as I did. And so that was the driver. And so the creativity part of it, I guess, in the production of the game was putting together 9 different parts to make one game. That was a creative process. But why did I feel I needed to do it? I just needed to keep going until I was told by the universe to stop. Whether that was nobody bought the game, whether that was I couldn't put the game together. But the process was what I really, really enjoyed. Just keep going.
Yeah, well, the ideas. So you had so many people in the world, Rob, just like they say, I'm going to write a book. How many people have told me I want to write a book, but thousands of people, and nobody has written, nobody actually writes the book. How many people say, oh my God, I got the most amazing idea, but they don't make it happen? That's one of my taglines. You've just got to make it happen. So there's some kind of ingredient here where you take the idea and you push it through the process, and you don't get discouraged. If your Yellow Pages is burned up, you find another one, you just keep going.
Right. Yeah. Well, you're going to get discouraged. That's just part of the.
You were discouraged.
Of course I was.
Why?
Oh, just at different parts different parts of the process over the years where something didn't go right. And you think, self-doubt creeps in. You're going, maybe not, but you just keep going. But for me is everybody's got a great idea. Everybody has a novel in them. Everybody has a game in them.
Right.
But you just have to get started. Right. And it's so simple, and it's said 100 different ways by 100 different people, but it's true. So for Pictionary, for instance, as I said before, I didn't have this grandiose plan. I just wanted to create a game, but I didn't know how to get started. right?
Right.
Everybody, I just go, okay, how do I do this? Well, self-doubt took over, self-sabotage. I can't do it. I'm a waiter. And
Yeah.
I wanted to, I just couldn't get started. And so for 2 years, I didn't do anything with it. And finally, I put myself on timeout, as I call it. I just stopped thinking about the problem. And I go, okay, what is the simplest, easiest first step that I can take? And it was the word list.
Mm-hmm.
So I grabbed a pad of paper, pencil, and a dictionary, and I went in the backyard, the house, and opened it up. And I wrote down the first word that made sense, and it was aardvark.
Ah.
Aardvark. That was it. That is how Pictionary got started. Not with a plan, not with a grand idea, not with this, oh my goodness, all these different moving parts. Pictionary started with writing down aardvark. And when I wrote the word down, I was excited, right? I relished, that's a small victory.
Yep.
Right? How I took a quarter of a second to write down the word aardvark. And I got excited for a quarter of a second. Guess what? Then I wrote a second word because I got excited. And I wrote a third and a fourth and a fifth. And then it just kept building. And the process kept building.
Yeah.
But it all started with writing down aardvark. And that's what I call find your aardvark.
It's just piece by piece by piece. There's a wonderful writer that has written one of my favorite books. Anne Lamott has written one of my favorite books on writing, Bird by Bird. And she tells the story, Rob, of like going up to some cabin and her little brother's there. He's like in middle school or something. And he's supposed to have done one of these huge reports on birds, you know, like an encyclopedic thing on birds, like term paper, footnotes. And he just couldn't get started. And here he is. The whole family's going for a canoe ride and walking in the woods. And he's got to stay home in this cabin. And his father, who was a writer, looked at him and he said, Sonny, you just got to take it bird by bird. So in my household, when we have similar issues, we don't say anything except bird by bird. But you basically did that bird by bird. You were doing, word by word, picture by picture.
Absolutely. What's the old joke? How do you eat an elephant?
Right.
One bite at a time.
Right. No.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, it is true. And then and during, it's a creative process, and it is a process. So at some point, if you keep writing enough words, this momentum builds. But you got to also remember, it's okay if it doesn't work. You have to know when to say, okay, I'm halfway through the process, but maybe it's not what the product I thought it would be. Maybe I'm not going to make any money at this, even though it's going to be a great product. So I'm going to stop. It's okay to stop. It's not giving up. It's not giving in the towel, throwing in the towel. It's just being practical. At some point, you have to be practical.
Full confession, I come from lots of entrepreneurs, which I don't usually admit, as I just went into a writing direction, but now I'm sort of becoming an authorpreneur accidentally. But anyway, strategic retreat, though, quote unquote, that's what my father used to say. He would say that you go in a certain direction and you go for a while and a bunch of projects, things you're doing might work, and then sometimes it doesn't. And he says, that's okay. That's not quitting. That's a strategic retreat. But in your case, this worked. And I think also, Rob, it's important that we not be stranded by perfectionism. And couldn't you have been like looking, oh gosh, this was a dumb word, and...
Oh my. Yeah, it's a personal issue as well with Pictionary and a few other things. It's okay, to get 80% there and then make a decision and go.
Right.
Getting to perfect is really difficult, debilitating, and it's tough. Yeah. So it's okay to make those decisions with your gut. When you get to 80%, you just got to go with it. You just got to make a decision and go.
I like that. 80%. That's a good number, right? You're not 95% there. 80%, like we're pretty much there. We're going to go.
Well, it's the old 80-20 rule. 80% is pretty easy. It's that last 20%. So just get to the 80 and then make a choice and see what happens.
Rob, I have another one of my Happiness Podcast interviewees. Her name is Elizabeth Lombardo. She's a well-known psychologist, and we did a podcast. She has a book on this on perfectionism. She calls herself a recovered perfectionist, and you need to to tap in and listen. She says the most brilliant things. Elizabeth Lombardo, how to shake off, just all kinds of great techniques for shaking off perfectionism. Sounds like you learned to do it, but there may be some more painless ways that the rest of us could learn.
Yeah, don't get started.
So you talk about breaking rules to break records. What's with that?
Well, when we did Pictionary, I kind of forgot to ask what the rules were. So we didn't break it. I didn't break any rules that I knew of because I didn't bother to ask the people in the industry what was possible, what had been done in the past, what worked, what didn't work. I just kind of did what felt intuitively right.
Mm-hmm.
And so I wasn't bound and hamstrung by convention. So I broke rules that I didn't know existed. So for instance, when I started selling Pictionary, the day all people sold was to toy stores, game stores, and some of the big box stores like Toys R Us.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I didn't know I couldn't go somewhere else. So I went to a real estate company.
Mm-hmm.
I go, why don't you buy 6 games, put one on the counter so when somebody comes in and looks at the house, there'll be a nice family board game there. Sure, they took 6. I went to a furniture store, same thing. I went to
Wow.
knick-knack stores. I went to Nordstrom, the department store. They didn't have any. They didn't sell games. But what I was doing was I was just getting the game in places that people wouldn't usually see a game.
So you went with stacks of them. Did you go with stacks of books, knock on the door, hi, my name is Rob, and I made this game. Can you sell some here?
I literally, yes, I would literally take the game, put it, a sample game, put it under my arm.
Mm-hmm.
I'd walk down the street. I'd see a storefront, and I'd walk in. And I'd go, hi, I'm Rob Angel, 25 years old this time, wet behind the ear. No idea what I was doing, but I think that worked to my advantage.
Yeah.
And I would just start selling to anybody and everybody.
And how many places did you get this? Like, did you put it in different states? Were you driving a long way? What were you? This distribution system, it's very homemade. How did homegrown?
It was totally homegrown. So for the first 1,000 games, and that first year, I only sold to stores that I could walk to or get to in my car. Because I had to deliver the games as well. So if I didn't want to ship to Wisconsin. Right. And so literally the first 8,000 games that first year were all sold in Seattle because I could manage them. I could monitor them. If a store ran out of games, I'd know because I was in the stores every day, and it's like we used to do our own version of store checks. So I remember going into Fred Meyer store, and my partner and I walked in and we're looking, we see Pictionary on the bottom shelf and Trivial Pursuit on eye level. Oh. So we go, that's not going to stand. So he watched Guard, and I rearranged their game department for them.
Oh, that's great.
And I put Pictionary at eye level and all the Trivial Pursuit games at the bottom level. Oh, so, great. Just little things like that.
Lots and lots and lots of clever, scrappy little things, but really with the eye on the ball. And again, covering a lot of ground, showing up. That's wonderful. That is such a homegrown kind of natural process.
I didn't know any better.
Yeah, well, no, I don't think that was wrong. People sell books that way too sometimes, so I hear from my agent. Well,
I'm working on that too.
Well, yeah, let me talk about that now. So your book, I love the name Game Changer, right? The story of Pictionary and how I turned a simple idea into the best-selling board game in the world. That's cool, and that also tells me exactly what the book's about. What prompted you to work on a book?
I wanted to tell the story. I mean, it's a good story. It's a fun story. A lot of lessons that I learned along the way. And I just wanted to share it with other people. And it's not just a business book. It's, life lessons as well. I mean, you can apply life to business and business to life pretty interchangeably, I feel. And I just wanted to get it out there and tell people what happened.
Can you give me a lesson or two from there that isn't I'm not such a businessy type myself. I'm a writer, so I'm a reporter. So what kind of lessons can we pull out of that book, one or two?
The overriding lesson for us, my partners and I, was that if we took care of Pictionary, mm-hmm. it would take care of us. Because over time, and we did all these different things, people wanted to change the packaging, wanted to change the rules, wanted to change their graphics, but we wouldn't let them because we knew it was best for Pictionary. And we didn't worry about the dollars. We didn't worry about sales. We just knew that if we made sure Pictionary was taken care of, it would take care of us. It would create sales. The money would, the riches and the whatever would come in time. And I've applied that to my life as well. Again, business and life. So if you take care of yourself, if you nurture yourself, the benefits will come. So don't worry about all the outside influences. Just make sure you're doing what's right for you, what you're doing right for Pictionary, and all the positives will come from that.
And you weren't focusing on, you weren't trying to make money. You were trying to make a beautiful game.
No, our goal from the start was to create a great game.
Mm-hmm.
And then let's be honest, once we started getting some traction, then we recalibrated our goals and our dreams at that point. Yeah, okay, how do we make money at this? But to get started, if our decisions were based on making money from the start, I probably wouldn't be having this conversation with you.
Right.
I'd probably be still waiting tables, right? So we did what was right for the game, and we didn't make decisions on how to make an extra nickel, how to make an extra this. We just wanted to create something that everybody would go, wow, that's a great memory. That was fun. I remember this. That was our goal, and we succeeded.
Why did people want to change your game, Rob, in ways that you didn't like? You're reminding me of the people out in, the people in LA that write the scripts, and then the movie people try to change it, and there's all kinds of back and forth as everybody tries to keep things from being changed. Why did they try to change your work?
Because everybody has their own self-interests.
Yeah.
Right? So the marketing guy comes to us and says, I think if we change a couple of words in the rules, then they'll be a little better. Well, his interest was he wanted to put his stamp on the game. He didn't really care if the game was any better.
Yep.
He just wanted to have that input. And so that happened a lot, but over time we did have to adapt, right? You can't just say no every time. So there was some situations down the line where somebody came up with an idea to do something different. We said, sure, it makes sense. It's not going to hurt the product. So we weren't so rigid where we weren't adaptable. And you have to be adaptable.
Right.
Hold true to your vision, align with your partners and the vision. But
now, speaking of adaptable, Rob, a lot of people today with coronavirus raging and jobs lost and all kinds of things are going to have to be very adaptable. This is a real Darwin time, I think. Do you have just general ideas, philosophies you can pull out from this about just ideas for people, how they can become, I don't know, more resilient, more creative, bolder now that many of us are going to need to reinvent and rebuild in myriad ways?
Yeah, you just kind of, I just said, you have to be adaptable to change.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Be open to change. I mean, a lot of people, as you say, aren't going to be able to go back to their old, not their old job, but their old ways. And so we have to adapt and work together, collaborate. Like one of the hallmarks of Pictionary is collaboration. So be open to change. It's happening. Whether we want it or not, it's happening. So embrace it, be open to it, and see what happens. And it's easier said than done.
Right.
I mean, I'm saying that kind of almost cavalier, but believe me, I am not, because I know it's difficult and it's hard times out there. But we will, as you said at the top of the show, we will get through it. Everybody will be different and changed, but we will get through it, and we'll get through it together.
Right. How are you going to be changed by this? What do you think? I will say that we are usually, I've now got 5 people and 3 dogs. You can hear my Great Dane thundering 160 pounds down the stairs because of an issue with the mailman. But how are we all going to, do you think we're all going to be changed? We over here have had to slow down from what is normally a breakneck pace in life, all of us. And kind of there's a little more stillness. My husband and I were walking the other day, and he looked up and said, wow, the cherry blossoms look really great this year. I think they're different. And I said, I don't think they're different. You just never have walked this slowly taken a breath and I guess because we don't have much we can do. So we're noticing the subtler things. What about, do you have any version of that over there? How is this changing your household? I saw somebody walk through the room earlier before. Yeah. So I know you have other people in there, right?
Yeah, I think you nailed it in that it's slowing down. I think that's going to be the change that's going to carry on when this is over. I think we're all going to get used to the slowing down and being more creative and letting new things in. I think that's just going to be the new norm. I used the word before, collaboration. I think we're all feeling that we're in this together. Nobody is immune. Nobody is alone. And I think the group mentality is going to become also the new norm. And I love that. I love this idea. I love the fact that everybody's right now physically helping each other, but everybody's supporting each other.
Yeah.
And when that carries over back into helping other people get jobs and starting new businesses and writing that book and doing all these new things, I think that's going to be the new norm. I think it's going to be absolutely great. It's unfortunate, there's an understatement, that it's happening the way it is.
Right.
But looking past that, I think there's going to be a lot of positives come out of this. And I don't know, it's going to be a fascinating, interesting dynamic when we get out of here.
Mm-hmm. So you think we are going to see a boom in new businesses, right? Out of necessity, because so many are closing. My website designer had lots of time for me because she's been closing so many small business websites. I mean, I've got the book's out there now. I can't go speak on it, but now because I had to cancel speaking engagements, but my book's been out 2 months and my book is Happiness, Finding Fulfillment When Your Kids Leave Home. But so now I'm going to start filming video clips. I've ordered some equipment. I'm going to find different ways to put the message out. I already had the Happiness podcast rolling. Now I'm putting the Happiness podcast on a newsletter. I'm finding different ways to communicate because I can't go in person. And that's, I guess, what we're talking about. That's adaptability, right?
Absolutely. And I completely hear you. My book is launching, in the next month on robangel.com. I'm learning that as well. I don't usually
do it.
Promote. I don't usually promote myself like that, but
you need to.
I know I do. I'm learning. I'm learning that. So robangel.com to pre-order the book. But I am also now working on playing Pictionary, figuring out whether it's Zoom or whatever with different groups. I'm playing today at 4:30 with a college in Virginia who play Pictionary. And so we're going to start playing online or not online, on Zoom or however that's going to work. That's my way of adapting to, one, promoting the book, but more importantly, and as importantly, to just to bring some joy right now. I mean, Pictionary is a fun game.
Yeah.
And so given that, I created it, if I can share and how I can share that fun online and just with different groups and different people, that's the adaptability, and that's the fun of it. That's going to be a blast.
No, that's wonderful. And you are also, I talk a lot about, I interview tons of psychologists and they talk about reframing a situation. It's all how you look at it. And you're saying, okay, now we're going to play online. This is what we're going to do. But you may accidentally create a whole new thing out of that. I'm imagining lots of, students that are not just business students, but certainly creative types and entrepreneur types would be delighted to play Pictionary with you online and hear your story. And so you might actually end up covering more ground that way.
Probably at this point, but it's just, as you say, reframing, a new way to do it. And that's when we get out of, I keep saying when we're released, that we're all going to be looking at things differently.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Wrapping up here, give us your contact. Where are you? So you've given us your website, robangel.com, and where can we reach you on social media?
You can find me at The Rob Angel on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, I'm starting to post and, give my 2 cents, and, I can even start posting words. And so, yeah, it's been fun. It's been a really, really interesting, fun process.
And you may be available to play Pictionary with groups online. So that's another possibility, right?
Well,
Depending, right?
depending. Yeah. Well,
Absolutely. Good. Well, leave me with what journalists call a kicker, just to wrap this up. How about an idea or two? What tips would you give people that want to create again, that are kind of stuck, that are doubting, that are feeling a little too perfectionist? What can you leave me with just right off the bat?
Don't beat yourself up. Just get started. Just have fun. Eliminate the fear of anything, and open up your mind, and open up your heart, and open up your soul and your spirit, and just see what comes out.
Yeah.
You'll be amazed.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Thank you so much, Rob Angel. I'm delighted. I've never met anybody who made a game before. That's very interesting to me. And thanks very much.
My pleasure, and thank you.
Thanks for tuning into my Happiness Podcast, where we explore how to get the best out of the empty nest. I hope you'll subscribe, write a review, and reach out to me on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Check out my website, judyhollandauthor.com. Have a great day, and remember, make it happen.